You've given me the green light. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. Let me figure out the best way to start this. Um, because
Honestly,
I'm
I felt like that. I was just going right there, like, you got the green light. Are you ready? And then just like launch.
Hello everybody. I'm Isaac Bradford. This is Filtraponics, and we have a guest today. And in the corner, it's hardly Lucas Carpenter, or as I know him, Luke Carpenter, my right hand man from many years ago. You might recognize him from a bunch of stuff. I'll let him take it away and introduce himself.
That's why, Isaac, I'm here today. Like you said, historical figure in the Filtraponics world, really. Was kind of here from the start. And something I'll give advice on later today too. I bet is I show up and things happen. You best ability is availability. You just show up and keep working forwards.
Oh, for sure. There was a certain phase of this business that would not have been possible without Luke, for sure. I He kept me on track when I was frantically looking around and like, here, do this, do that, do that. And he was like, all right, hold on, take it by step. And so there's a lot of things that I have learned from working with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity that I have to interview today for Take It From a Friend, because we're good buddies, and figure you could tell the world what's your job title and what you do. Why are you so important for what this could be?
So I mean, I guess I'll start out saying that I don't know that I'm important now, but I'm building. I'm going to keep building towards stuff. But currently, I'm a graduate engineer with a company called ISG. I do ag engineering, and I do mostly water, wastewater, or water resources management, surface water things.
Okay,
I can do a little or wastewater management, things like that, but that's not really my area per se.
sure.
So to boil it down, what I like actually do, I do a lot of currently I do a lot of like contractor coordination and a lot of phone calls and making sure things are installed properly. And I do a lot of modeling too and a lot of design work on these projects and things like that.
Okay, so I guess just because I'm sure, like, if we ever want to do another one, we could get really in detail. But like, for just a short example, what would a project sort of look like that you work on, or what's your
Right.
role on a project?
So most of the projects that I work on are two things, and that's a like government sponsored project. So like usually IDOLS, which is the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, which is I'm out of Iowa, just for those of you who aren't aware. Uh, it's an important thing of like building up better ecosystems and environments while also maintaining agriculture, because that's a huge part of Iowa's economy and things like that. And or we'll get stuff from the NRCS, and they partner a lot on different things too. So we get a lot of projects through them that come down the pipeline, and then
Okay.
the other projects we get are through landowners who want to improve their grounds and improve their fields by properly managing their water.
And I guess this is a side note that we don't have to get too much into, but with those landowners that want to do additional work, are they getting government funding and then paying you with that funding? Or is it sort of just on their own accord, we want to pay for this because it's going to make the earth better, our fields better, our...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The easy answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Because it depends on what they want to do. Because some things is full landowner contributions, like the state requires that. So, like we call it like a tile improvement or a ditch improvement. Landowners have to pay for it, and there's a divvying system to where like all landowners that use that facility must pay for it as well for like how much they use and whatnot. And that's something else that we do for determining, and we do a lot of math and work around that. So, but then there's also things that are government funded, like a farmer could want a system to reduce nitrogen or hold water for a period of time.
Okay.
And then there's government funded dollars for that. And our
Gotcha.
company actually is also doing some important research on drainage water recycling currently, which is something that I have done a little bit with, but it's very
Oh,
interesting to
cool.
me where you hold the water from the field and then spread it back over the field in some way and reap the benefits of that.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this in a second, probably. But like, so Luke and I actually took a class together. Well, we went to school together. Go clones. But and one of the things that one of our professors mentioned was the drainage water recycling. And now that I'm going to grad school at Purdue, one of those guys is from that project that she mentioned. So he does some drinking water recycling, and I'm trying to convince him. And I think he's already said yes, but it'll take a little bit to organize it. But he might be able to do a research, kind of symposium for the same channel. So maybe we could get you on and ask some questions. Maybe, well, who knows?
Yes.
Yeah. But speaking about that, since we know each other, I mean, just because it's take it from a friend, talking to industry professionals, whether it's new, old, or otherwise, how do you remember us meeting? And why are you agreeing to do this? Why do we still get to be friends? If you have a short story that embodies it. I can think of a few, but I'm sure you got a good one.
Yeah, so I agree with you. That's an important reason of like how you get to be places, how you grow is by knowing your past. So the first time I ever remember noticing Isaac per se, he was nodding off in a class, honest, and like knocked a lemonade bottle over that he'd brought in and spilt it. And I've never seen anyone dive from a chair so gracefully for his size. I mean, he just leaped down there and got it grabbed, and then like very coolly meandered out, cleaned it up, whatnot, very chill. And I was like, who is this guy and what is he doing right now? He is off the walls. I mean, this kid, I knew him from class as well. Like, this is the kid who answers all the questions. Like, this kid's a nerd. He's whatnot. But the way we really met is you gave a presentation one time talking about your business.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, you led with the lemonade story, not the
Yeah, because that's the first time I remember being like, oh yeah, yes. But the way we really met is you gave a presentation talking about your business. I was impressed, and I was like, this kid is my age, and he has this business going that he's doing all this stuff for, giving presentations in class about it, and like, yeah. And I gave you like a bunch of questions about it in your presentation.
That's what I remember.
And I remember you being like, why is this kid grilling me so much?
Well, that was years later that we talked about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I was like, man, he's just asking up a storm.
But I was just really interested. So then there was a point when in another class, I believe you gave a presentation about it again. And
Probably.
it would have been in Bell's class, because you gave one in Ling Ling's class for the design class, and about your initial design. Mm-hmm. And then in Bell's class is when I actually walked up to you and I said, hey, can I come see your stuff? I just want to like look at it.
I think it was because he like picked me out in class. He's like, you guys could be doing this, this, and this. And I was like, I don't. And he's like, Isaac, talk about it. And I was like, alrighty. Because I'd been doing stuff with him. And then I think I dragged you around because I was like, you said, well, that's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, you think it's cool? Hey, guess what? You want to spend the next 6 hours with me?
That is how I remember it. And I remember, like I said earlier, I just showed up and it started rolling. Like Isaac was like, yeah, you can come look at it. It's kind of like, it's not as big a deal as Bell's making it sound. I'm like, no. You talk to me about it. Let me hear about it. And I think Isaac was really downplaying it and whatnot. But I was going. And then Isaac's like, well, this is great. I appreciate you with all this interest. And then I feel like you were just kind of like, okay, this is the end of this and whatnot. You're like, oh, I got to go to this meeting for this company thing, a little entrepreneur program they have at Iowa State, which for all you viewers out there, take full opportunity of anything is provided to you through college or anything like that. And you just kind of like, yep, I got to go to this. And then you're one of those people who's too nice to like say leave. And so you're like, I mean, you could come to that if you want, is how I remember it. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. I'm not doing anything today.
Yeah, that was probably pretty close. The one thing that I would say is I felt bad. Like, I didn't want to drag you to across campus into another meeting that would be another hour. But, like, yeah.
But I went, and I did. Because I had nothing going on. And I didn't have, like, during the week, during that time, I didn't have much, like, homework, like, outside life, anything like that. So I had an opportunity to do something. I was like, yeah, I'll go. And I showed up, and it went, I mean, I wouldn't say it went very well either. Just, like, you don't.
Yeah, I think it was just excel that day, so.
Right. Like, you don't always have to be hitting home runs, Like, singles can win you a game. So it went on, and then we leave, and Isaac's like, well, I think I should go home now. I'm like, yeah, me too. And we start walking. He's like, are you gonna turn? Like, I'm like, no, I live at Freddie Court.
Well, I think it was also that we had one of my friends, right? Because she was with us too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, we might be going eating. And then we were all going the same way. And you're like, where are you headed? And we're like, oh, we're headed this way. You're like, so am I.
Yeah. And so then, yeah. So again, things just keep happening. It starts snowballing. And it snowballed to a point where Isaac's like, hey, there's this program, again, taking advantage of his resources through the community, through the college. And he's like, and I can hire an intern through the school if you'd want to do something like that. And so I said, yeah, I'll do that. I don't have that much going on right now. And so then I started working, I think it was 10 hours a week, right?
I think it was 10 hours a week the next year because the program didn't start till the fall.
Right.
Because we had dinner with you, me, and Cam, who she might be on this show eventually with her husband because they got some cool stuff too. But
yes.
I think because it was just you in the fall, and then we had the capstone group that you and I were leading. And then that same semester, we won some money for a competition that we could always get back on here and talk about. But that was also another whole experience.
That was another experience. I remember that.
And then Adam, you and another capstone group were the next semester, or maybe we didn't. Did we have? I don't.
We didn't have capstone the next one. We took
the next one. It was just us, but we were just cruising and trying to do email outreach and everything. And that was a big semester where it's like I'm actually managing people, and we got a big team on this, and like this is our chance. Like it's 10 hours a week for each of you guys, and it's however much time I can put in on the side, plus the clubs that I'm going to, and it's like this is the semester to do it.
And we met on Friday mornings, and for those of you who are either in college or going to be in college, don't schedule things for Friday morning. It's just.
I think we tried not to. I think we really tried not to.
I think we met on Friday all the time. I think that was
it was either like 7 at night, like after dinner time,
right?
Like 2 days a week, or it was Friday. But that Friday time was bad for all three of us.
All of us would show up.
Adam
tired.
would wake up.
Yeah. It was rough, but yes, great opportunity. I always am grateful for you giving me that because I think that really a good growth opportunity for everybody involved in that. Just like very interesting process of like getting a company off the ground and things like that.
Yeah, well, you were a big keystone part in the Filtraponics experience for me for sure, and I've really appreciated that you were willing to take the ride with me and just see what happens. Because it's a lot to be like, all right, I'm going to spend 10 hours a week working for a buddy, and I wasn't there. I had some learning to do too, so I think I got to learn a lot from you guys as well.
Yeah, and there was times too when I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get 10 hours a week out of what I'm doing, but I will give it my all. And
because then there was also other weeks where it was like I think a little more heavily loaded.
Right, but we also had to do it where like I could only do 10 hours a week. Like I couldn't do more, but if I couldn't do less either. So I had to hit 10.
I think there was some little bit of gray area, but it's hard when we were balancing programs of how we were funding. Right. Because it's an interesting funding program.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot now, like when I meet with people at my new job and things like that, of like, there's a lot of communication that I learned through doing that with you, because like I would want this, you'd want that, and Adam would just be in the wind, be like, he'd be ready to go and do whatever.
He is a workhorse and a half.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
we should do it. We should do a Filtraponics reunion of that year, because we would have Carver, you, Adam, me, Ben. If we could get Ben on here, that would be a long time. Oh man, that's been 3 years now?
Yeah.
Whew. It's been a while. Yeah, we were only like I'm trying to think how old we were. I think we were probably like 20, just turned 21, 20.
I think I wasn't. No, you would have been turning 21 and I wasn't, because
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because you're a little bit younger than me. Yeah. Wow. Man, these is good to just relive in general, but well, I appreciate all the kind words. I'm glad it meant something to you, because it was pretty cool for me to be able to do that, and it's always interesting to see people's eyes light up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had some of my buddies that got to work with me, and they're like, oh yeah, what they do? I'm like, well, I paid them for their time, and they're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm like, that's how I felt. So yeah, no, not a great segue into this one, but there never really is. But this is a big question. This is the only one that I gave you to prepare for. So I'm curious to hear what you got for me. What do you see as your purpose in life? Because everything's driven by everybody's purpose. So I'm just curious what drives you.
Right. So something that's always compelled me, like whether it was in high school doing sports or just like I, I won't say that I was really compelled to do that well in high school. Like I school for me in high school, I just went there. And then
Right.
any opportunity I could to leave school, like through the school, I
Sure.
wasn't breaking rules or anything like that,
Hmm.
was on the table. But I always look to just improve. Like
Okay.
you don't again like I was saying earlier, you don't have to hit home runs every day.
Right. 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 Right.
But if you improve your average every day, you'll eventually get closer and closer to perfection. Whether it's a big step, like something clicks for you one day, and all of a sudden you've got it and you're moving forward, or whether you are just barely like just that little bit above the
Right.
extra. And so, like for me, a big purpose in my life I find is to improve and try to be better because, like, at the end of the day, no one's ever going to be perfect, but
Right.
I can be better. I can do better.
Right.
And so, like, I try to put that into my work a lot too, because, like, I know that, like, I'm not the best at things. And that's an important part of this too, is to be an accurate self assessor. There's a leadership coach at my company who was a pitching coach for the Cleveland Indians for many years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Interesting.
or I really maybe not pitching coach, but like coached pitchers, like mindset wise,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. Okay.
Not really teaching them how to throw the ball more, but like
Right. Right. Okay.
yes, and growth and things like that. Who says it's the best people to like ever play sports or anything
Mm-hmm.
are the best self assessors. They
Mm.
know where they are and they know and then they so if you know accurately where you are, you
Right.
can know where you're growing to. So for
Right.
me, I worked really hard to be an accurate self assessor, but then I also work hard to like lift others to what they can be too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I wouldn't say that I'm a great assessor of other people per se,
I don't know if
but
that's necessarily true, but okay.
you
I
know,
think
like
you're
I don't
pretty
know
good.
that. Yeah, but you know, it's important to me to always be growing and help others grow too.
Right.
Because if you're not having people come along with you for the ride,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a very lonely ride, and it's important to have friends and things along the way. In my opinion,
Right.
I'm not. This is just my experience. You
I
know,
mean,
I'm not.
I think you're dogging yourself a little harder than you'd have to because, I mean, from what I see is whenever, because we've been on a lot of group projects outside of Filtraponics just for class. And I mean, anything we've ever worked on or I've seen you work on with other people, with some of our friends, it's a lot of it is you're just trying to make sure the job is the best it can be, but that everybody's having a good time along the way. I mean, even if
Right.
problems
Yeah.
arise, it's like, it's not the biggest deal, guys. We can still get through
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And that's another thing that I think is important in life. Like you asked me what my purpose is.
Hmm.
It's important not to only get caught up in just your purpose.
Sure, sure.
Some people focus too hard on one thing and lose themselves. You need to be balanced in your life. You can't overwork yourself to where you're not having any fun, but you can't have so much fun to where you can't do any work as well. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
balancing act, and I'm not a professional, but that's my 2 cents on it.
right. That's pretty similar to my. I remember getting told before I went to college was, my dad would say, "Don't let school get in the way of your education," which could mean any number of things. But you and I going around and to a bunch of clubs and then going to dinner with friends and stuff. That's not. There's no GPA for how you interact with people, right?
Right.
And I wouldn't. I mean, whether it's with you or with a bunch of our friends, it's like we wouldn't have been engaged with the same way without having that extracurricular interactions with people. So I definitely can
Right.
agree with you on that. Yeah.
And I'll put this out here as a little example for people of my company is big on like the growth mindset, goal setting,
Hmm.
things like that. And we have like reviews like where you have to do them every like 6 months basically,
Sure,
but
sure.
we usually do them every quarter, like me and my boss, right?
Okay.
And so in my last one, I was my end of year review, and I made an assessment of like 4 things that like you can do at work, and that was quality work.
Okay.
You can have quantity of work, and then there's community and personality.
Okay.
So if you can have a job every day of the week if you're doing high quality work and good quantity of it.
Okay.
But if you're totally not being a team player, making everyone mad, you're going to continue to be employed probably because you do such good work, but you're not really winning the team over.
Sure.
But you could also be doing really good work and be a really nice person. You just aren't working together for so much.
Gotcha.
And there's certain roles in a company that are that way, of like you're on your own and things like that.
Right.
And that's where like personality would come to play.
Okay. Interesting.
And so yeah, I'd always encourage people to think about like what their actions are doing for other people too. Because some people think they're doing all this stuff that's really helping people, and they just don't take a step back and look on how that actually affects them.
Right.
I will also say that like if your company or who you're working for doesn't think about you either in their like project or whatnot, or like my boss will tell me, this is where I think you're growing, I think you're doing well here, this and that.
Right.
Somebody should be thinking about you at your company. You should not just be a workhorse.
Gotcha.
But that's my 2 cents on it. So
fair enough. Fair advice. A lot of good things to think about for anybody looking to, whether it's starting career or just life advice. There's some pretty cool stuff that you said. Yeah. I've been taking a little bit of notes, some stuff to think about, But I mean, outside of just, this call, but I know that we've had calls and you've been pretty helpful with stuff, outside of just career stuff. Career.
Yeah.
So having friends is a good thing.
we did a assessment recently of like, it's Working Geniuses, and I forget who it's by, but if you look it up online and type in Working Geniuses, it's this assessment of the different levels of like a project moving forward, or it doesn't have to just be a project, but it starts off with wonderment, like wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity.
Okay.
Is how that works. So like wonder is the thought, like, hey, would this work? And then invention is making something that will do that. Discernment is assessing that and saying, hey, this will do something. This will work. This won't. We should do this. Galvanizing is reinforcing that idea of like, hey, okay. And then it's rallying people around it. Enablement is putting people in positions to make the play, to do what they should do from that. And then tenacity is finishing it and like going through and like, hey, this needs this is going to be done. Let's push it and get it through. So I'll put in my thing. I got that. I was a good wonderer and discern and had discernment. And so again, for people who are watching this, I would encourage you to take those tests. And I can remember being like a young person and taking those tests and think they were really dumb. Because I would be like, well, of course it's going to say something that you like, and there is a little bit of that to it. Like, don't just trust every test you take out on the internet, but think about what it says about you and if that lines up and whatnot. So I find that, yes, I do love to think about things and develop those processes and then discern if that's good or bad, how we should do things. What I did lack, though, was enablement and tenacity, the finishing of those things. Because I love to start things and get things rolling, but then I don't have great follow through. And that is that relates back to what I was saying about being accurate self-assessor.
Okay.
That to ball everything up and continue to grow, know where you're at. Because you can't effectively put your efforts into something without knowing where you're already at.
Okay. Fair enough. That's a fair point. I mean, yeah. Got to look where the path was backwards in order to keep going forward.
Right.
Yeah. Learn from past actions. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'll give one of my famous analogies on this.
All right.
Think of it like a tree. There's a time you should be growing your roots and stabilizing yourself. There's a time you should be spreading your limbs out. If you don't know where your seed's at, it's hard to tell which way you should be growing.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a poet. I don't know.
I don't know about that.
You are known among our friend groups for sure for having your Luke-isms or your one-liners that are
Yes,
definitely,
the Lukeisms. They're
yeah,
classic.
yeah. I know that one of our buddies is always like, I always think of that one where it's the, I, it's the whole like, I don't need a, we were playing disc golf, we don't need a long driver if I, I don't need a putter
No,
if I
no,
can
you
use a
got it
long driver.
backwards.
Well, I'm not
I,
the expert. You gotta say
yeah,
it.
I don't. Hey, Isaac offered me a putter, and I said, "Yeah, you don't need it. You don't need a pistol if you're good enough with a sniper. So I'll just take this driver." And
Yeah.
yeah, that was just a off the hip thing. And yeah, I come up. There's things I say that make sense, but no, they don't. Like
They
it'll
make
add
sense
up.
for certain. They're good for certain
Yeah,
things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I know you've done a really great job of talking about how your whole goal is to keep improving, and if you're not, you got to keep improving because that's self assessment and the whole tree analogy you just said, right? And you're talking a little bit about how that incorporates into your work life. So I guess my question is, how does your career play a role in fulfilling what you see to be your purpose? Like, how do your
right.
how does that all
Yeah.
mesh together?
So yes. So I guess I took the purpose more as like my personal thing and like
Hmm.
not so much about my career focus. So on that, the reason I do what I do is because I'm from a small town. I'm from a farming community and things like that. So this has always interested me, first off. And then the next thing that really stuck out to me about this company was how honest they were with me, like from the get go.
Right.
And like I had an interview and they asked me like questions about then it like I also thought that they would ask me more about like my schooling, my GPA, but they wanted to know my experience. They wanted to know me. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
that was important. But like why this fulfills my purpose is I want the best opportunity for people to continue to farm and continue to learn agriculture more and more. And I feel the way to do that is to have better and better practices again, like continue to be better. Because there's so many things that like back in the day that people would never do now.
Right.
Like people don't pe- people are learning less and less full tilling practices like runoff,
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. And everyone used to do that. And I think again, that's part of the growth thing. Like that's just going to happen.
Right.
So like
Right.
to continue to do stuff, we have to take care of what we have. And to take care of what we have, we need to do better practices.
Definitely. Completely agree. Yeah. I think we're gonna have to do another one and talk just about some of the edge of field practices and everything that you go through with work because that's part of the reason why I got engaged with the whole because I guess we probably should have told them what major we did, but because we did agricultural engineering at Iowa State with land and water resources options. So
Mhm.
yes, but the whole edge of field practices and everything that you work on and trying like I'm kind of on the scale of like researching that and you're like helping people actually do it and
Right.
both sides are important. I miss soil a little bit because I'm on a water quality project now. That's not directly
Um,
related, but
I find myself seeing a lot of dirt recently. Yeah.
yeah. Well, dirt's not alive, Luke.
Okay.
We
My
remember.
bad. Yes, the soil.
Sorry, I have to do it a little bit because if I go
Those of
on,
us who watch it get moved around as a construction
fair enough.
process.
Once
And
it's taken out of the ground and it's baked in the
that's right.
sun,
That's
it's
right. That's
it's
what I'm
dirt
thinking
after
about.
that. Yeah,
That's when I'm
yeah.
messing with it. I'm not growing anything in it when I see it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, so you've talked a little bit about how you got here and what drives you with the job that you have now. For younger you or some of the viewers that might be in high school or not quite sure what they want to do with their college education, even though they've already started college, if like they're undecided engineering, and they're considering a career in your field, what's one thing you would tell them to improve their journey? It doesn't have to be necessarily career related, could be life related, but just something that you would tell yourself or someone in your shoes.
Yeah. So for me, like I was saying, did so many things where I just show up and let things happen. First off, do that. Like if you have a thought of like, hey, maybe I'd like that. But you don't know, just go. Like at the end of the day, if you don't like it, don't go back. You know. But if you like it, keep going. It'll grow to something. And then my next thing on that is like think about how you do things and how you work. Like let yourself be yourself while also understanding how that is to other people. So like I do a lot of thing of like growing, like I call it grow your mind, body, and soul. So like take care of your body so you can take care of your mind so you can take care of your soul. All of those things work in a tandem. You can't have one without the other. Like again, I'm not some philosopher, professor thing like that, but that's just my thoughts on it. And so I would say for start off, show up. Best advice I could give anybody. Like I, so a little story example of this. I played football all 4 years in my school, and the first 2 years, I got I got my butt kicked like all day, every day, pretty much. And I was not very good, and I knew that. But I wasn't going to stop showing up. Like again, it gave me something to do after school, a reason, and like things to do. Well, then junior year, we got a new coach who was really preaching this like training program he was going to put us through and whatnot. And I remember he came in and set this like clear goal to us that I remember thinking was so heinous. Like what he said, if you want to be a college player, if you trust me, I can make you be good enough to play at a college. And I was like, listen, we're this small little rinky dink school. No one's like, people have been good here before, but no one goes to play college football. No one, that's not what we do. Like, that's not us. But I was like, but this coach is looking for leaders. This coach is looking for people to show up. So I showed up, and then I was like, and then the first day, it was me, our starting running back had been all year, or like my whole career, and the coach's son. We're the only ones who were there. And we started on this training program right away. And he came to me after that and said, I need someone to help lead this team. Would you do that for me? I said, yeah, I can do that. I don't know if wasn't fully confident that I could do that yet. That wasn't something I knew that I was working towards and going to do. But I said, yeah, I can try to help you. I remember saying, I was like, I don't know if I'm the person you should be asking. Like, there's so many people better at this sport than me and things like that. He's like, no, I think you'll be good. You've answered my questions today and you've done this. So go ahead. And so that was the start of my junior year. Well, the time my senior year rolled around, he hadn't lied to me. I had every opportunity to go play college football at not D1 or anything crazy like that, but like I had opportunities to do it, and he had told me the truth. I didn't take those up because that's not what I wanted in my life, but that's a whole separate story. But the only reason I got that opportunity to lead my high school football team, do things like that, or just like anything that I've done, I've never had just great planning, strategy, and things like that. I just showed up. And once you show up, then you can start to make the plan. Now, that's one of my strengths is having adaptability. And if you're someone who needs to plan things, plan things. But everything you plan on always starts with showing up. You got to take that first step and be there. You're never going to get a job by not going to work.
Pretty good advice. Pretty good advice. I mean, overall, if there's anything else you want to mention, but I think you did a great job answering these questions. And, to me, the way, even though we're on camera, like the way you're talking about everything reminds me of just talking to you about life and career journey. And I have one question more, but I'll let you, if there's anything you want to add or anything you want to suggest people look into. Just like if I brought you in and we had, 80 high school kids, what would you be telling them if they were looking at something like this? Like what you do, whether that's, ag engineering or your career.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give two things of advice. If they're looking at something that we do, my first piece of advice is Iowa State is the best. And is that biased? Yes, totally. Don't follow up on that and be like, well, actually, it's yada, yada, and this and that. But for me, that's where I was going. That's what I was going to do. And I hear people go to different places, different things. And I always am going to be an Iowa State biased person. So my first advice, if you're looking to get into agricultural engineering, those are the people who started it. So maybe they know a thing or two. So that's my advice for getting into agricultural engineering. And I will give a shout out to Purdue. They do a lot of great research. They'll do a lot of great things. I'm more of a practical person and I like digging. And so that's where I find is the best for that experience, maybe.
Right.
Again, that was my experience, and it's totally biased.
Hey, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I love Iowa State too. I mean, we had professors that they'll switch back and forth between the universities, and they partner with each other. So
Yeah.
I can't.
And of course, I didn't have an experience anywhere else to actually weigh in on that.
Right.
But I'm a big Cyclone fan, always have been.
Yeah. Well, you know me.
Clone.
I sat in the front row in the football games when I was there. That's a whole story for another day. But
yeah. But so but also just read. Like earlier we were talking about Bell's class. That's Steve Bell, and he's a very good he's a very good people person. He wasn't teaching us like the science basis and all this. He was teaching us how to be, like I was saying, ourselves, accurate self-assessors and growing and things like that. He taught more community things and came from a corporate place and had very good corporate things. And he always said leaders are readers. And I would agree with that. Like, to be a competent leader, you need to know about things.
Mm-hmm.
And where is there a bunch of information? In books, in reading, online articles, forums. Please read. I went a long time through my high school, college. I mean, probably right up until my senior year of college before I really believed that too. That like I would not read things. I would be like, I got it understood. It'll be fine. And then, but why would I like? It's really not that hard to just read and learn a little bit about something. And the more you know about something, the easier it is to guide someone else or to guide yourself even through a process. And there's so many things that link back to each other on that. So that's what I'll say about being an ag engineer. And that's just like, just start learning, start somewhere, maybe go to Iowa State. But anyhow, what advice I'd give, like if there really was a classroom full of 80 kids out there listening to this, the advice I would give is just follow up on something. Like there's no dream that's too small. Like, and everyone will realize like you'll have a dream that you think is awesome and it's going to work really well. And you'll get out there and be like, no. Like, for example, like I knew people who really thought they wanted to be a vet because they like animals and things like that. There's so much work to being a vet. So don't, like, if that's your dream and that's what you're going to do, like you have set your mind to it, you can follow it, work hard at it, and grow. Also, be listening to yourself. Think about what you want to do. There's nothing too small. Like, and people find that, like, a lot of people find it hard to get work, do things like that. You can get work doing, like, almost anything. I can't figure it out for you or to tell you what it is or how it's going to do, but people pay for so many things that you have no idea. Like, I worked for a company that sold corn as squirrel corn and marked it up so much because it was a specialty thing. There's so many niches in today's world that you can do anything you want and be successful and move forward. And I'm also a believer that success in life is not also determined by money. So your success is your decision. And I just want you to remember that. Like, if you're trying to be the richest person in the world, great. Go ahead. You go, you work towards that as long as it's fulfilling to you. But I just want, like, don't be chasing things so long they lose where you are and where you went. Be yourself. Let yourself guide yourself forward.
Really good advice. Well said. Well said. Last one's a little bit of a fun one, so I can let you go and get on with your day. I appreciate you coming here, by the way. This is awesome.
I was honored to come. Honestly, I thought this was you called me about this. I think you were a little nervous about maybe just the whole thing, but I think this is an awesome opportunity. And people, and like maybe this is me being biased too, because I remember in high school we'd have people come give advice to us and things like that. I'd be like, who is this old guy? Who, like, why is he here? I don't care about that right now. And I guess maybe that would be us now. Like, maybe we are that old. But
I'm trying to catch us before we become too old.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one knee surgery deep, and it's starting to wear on me.
Yeah. I'm losing hair, but don't don't listen to every adult, kids, but most adults know what they're talking about on it. Like, you get somebody, if they turn to you and are trying to give you advice and you recognize it, they're usually not that far off. And another thing about following up, ask them a question about it. Because usually if someone's giving you something they don't know about, if you ask them a question, it'll come down. Or if you ask them a question, they're gonna want to elaborate. Ask questions is a big advice piece there too.
Right.
That also goes with reading and learning.
And that
And
loops
possibly
it
going
back
to
to
Iowa
kind of the
State.
first time we ever met, besides,
Yeah.
one orientation
Yeah,
call.
full circle.
Yeah.
I asked a question, I showed up, I followed up.
And here we are now, 4
Yep.
years later or something. But yeah. No, I mean, something I realized about the same time was like you're saying, listen to people and try to take away something. Even if it was, even if they were talking about something and they were saying things I didn't agree with, you can always learn something from anything. Even that's just one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't have to even be related to the topic they're talking about. You could learn, because there can be great orators, right? People that speak amazingly, but they could be speaking amazingly about something. I mean, it's like all of those documentaries about con men, right? Like, don't take them as life examples. But if you can use, crowd work for good, or if you are someone who takes stock in a bunch of different information just from like school in general, you could find something that somebody doesn't know about.
Right. And I'll also say this, the more information you get, the easier it is to remember things of information. I think of it like a highway system. You start crossing paths over, like, this does this. Well, also that, like, for those of you looking into engineering, you'll learn that like electricity and water work a lot like between water pressure and the flow of electricity. Well, once you understand one, you can understand the other. And that was something that always blew my mind of like, hey, this is a prime example of like overlapping ideas. And then there's things of like shoring up a sea bank shore works the same as shoring up a riverbank. Like, it's the same process, and it might be a different scale, it might be a little different, you might come at a different angle, but there's so many things that you can learn that will make a connection to something else and continue to grow and exponentially the more you learn.
Right. So talking about sea banks or freshwater banks, is there a plant or animal, fish if you're interested, because that's kind of what we've done, that you think is cool, unique, interesting, not necessarily your favorite, but something that you find interesting?
So
could be a plant too.
You're right. It's not going to be a plant, first off.
I just had to make sure.
I'm not a big plant guy myself. I will say, I again, this was something that it was like a Sunday, I was just kind of bored. I turned on and learned about like mudfish, like mud skippers.
Okay.
To where they're fish that can live in the water, they breathe, but they can also be in the air for extended periods of time. They can climb trees, they can run on land, they have little flippers that have adapted to crawl on land and things like that. And fish impressed me because he's so adaptable that he can go anywhere and do anything. He's not big, he's not making big splashes, but he is the most adaptable fish in the world. And that fish, I think, is very interesting. And I like him a lot because I find myself to be, you can throw me into any situation and I'll come out with something. I mean, I might not be hitting a home run, but
you're hitting
I'm a mean
singles till you
bunter.
score.
Yeah, I'm a mean bunter. I can get hit by a dead ball so well. Like that. So, yeah, I'm nominating the mud skipper fish.
Okay.
There's probably a more scientific name for him than that, but I'm pretty sure if you look that up, he'll come up. He's an adventurous little dude and goes places. He shows up, things happen.
Maybe I can ask the editor if we can throw in a photo.
Yes.
Editor, can we throw in a photo? I'll see what I can do.
Dude, yeah. If you can find it, there. David Attenborough was talking about him. I'm like, this little guy is the scamperiest little fellow I've ever met.
Oh man, that's a good pick. I could have, I like that.
Yeah.
Pick. Yeah. Well, man.
And a little recency bias there because
fair enough. Yeah.
But
I mean, you make a good point. You are the mud skipper of the world, man. I mean, like everybody's heard you talk about for the last however long it's been. The time has been flying, but I mean, whenever you didn't know somebody or know something, you'd always be willing to learn and take it away. I remember it was the first 2 weeks. This was probably one of the most impressive things that I saw you do while you're working. It was like the first 2 weeks, and I was like, "Hey, could you read these like really technical documents about hydroponics for the stuff that we were doing?" You're like, "I mean, I suppose if that's what you want me to do." And I was like, "Yep, that's what I want you to do." And you're like, "All right." You got into it. I didn't realize you'd finished all of them, and we went to another one of my mentors who has a vertical farm at that time, and he was talking about lighting and temperature, and Luke is just like, "Oh, it's because of this scientific principle of this and these microclimates under the leaves," and I was like, "I mean, it is." But and then the guy was like, "Yeah, you're right," and I was like, "You learned all of this in 2 weeks. I mean, you read, you improved, and you adapted.
Yeah.
It was very cool to see that happen."
And I'll say, like, for some people, pursuing knowledge in like multiple areas like that is not your path forward. Like, if it, like, there's nothing wrong with knowing everything about one specific thing. And that doesn't have to be something that's so amazing and fancy or anything. Like, I'll say this is my like small town community coming through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who work, like I worked for the city, and there's people who, like, they're never going to come out and quote them the microbiology underneath the leaf, because the proper leaf climate will make a leaf grow better if it has good aeration underneath it, is the example you're giving. People are never going to know that, but they could start a lawnmower with a can of hairspray and this or that and just get it going. Like, there are things that, like, know, again, that's knowing your strengths. There's things that, like, some people are never going to get that, and that's fine. I'm never going to open up a car hood and be like, I know what that sound is. I'm going to fix that. I'll do this. I'm going to do that. Like, maybe I could learn it, but like, as of right now, I open it. I'm like, looks pretty bricky under there. I think I can quote some stuff I've heard people say before, but I don't know that I really know that that's what it is.
Yep, fair enough. But like you've told us today, you can still learn it. So
Yeah. Again, and everybody's capable of learning, I believe. And like I said, not every subject is going to speak to people, but everybody can learn something from somebody.
I like it. I like it. Anybody can learn something from anybody, for sure. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you coming on today. Too bad we're not doing this in person. Maybe we'll do another one in person sometime.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Give me I do a live setup if you ever get the
yeah,
chance.
yeah, it's hard when different
Yeah,
state and all for now, but it's only temporary. But we'll see.
that's right.
Well, I appreciate it, and if you guys have any questions, I can try to send to Luke, or we'll see. We'll set up something, or if you want to hear from Luke again, I mean, I'd be willing to. Just takes a little
Yeah,
convincing.
I'd be honored to do this. I think that's a great opportunity. I think you might be onto something. I don't know where it all goes, so that's not my job though.
Well, we'll have to see what happens, but right now, this is one of the current dreams. You talk about little dreams every day, but this is one because I think, like you're talking about, one of your goals is to help improve and educate in ag, and that's why we really got along. We were working on the business together, and I'm glad you're willing to just help out this time. I don't have the 10 hours a week to pay you, but you've got a big boy job now, and I'm just trying to
Yeah,
see what I can do. So yeah.
awesome.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody. Let me know if you want to see some more of these, because this has been pretty fun for me. Hopefully, it was just as helpful for you. Keep on growing.
Yep. Thanks for having me.